So, okay, I was just thinking about a story that everybody knows and heard about, and that's the Rosa Parks story and how she was arrested for refusing to give up her seat to a white person during a time when buses were segregated and blacks were second class citizens or considered second class citizens. And we all heard the story, but there's a part of the story that you probably weren't told. And I'm going to draw an analogy here about big banks. And the part of the story that people fail to mention when they're talking about Rosa Parks is that the reason the boycott was successful was because of financial reasons. In other words, there wasn't anything about the story about Montgomery, Alabama, the city fathers, and the city bureaucracy that said, woke up one day and said, you know what? We're wrong. They're right. We're going to change the law. The primary reason for the success of the boycott was that blacks stopped spending money on the bus system. They carpooled, they took taxis, they rode bikes, they walked to work. And this was such a financial hardship on the city that they finally gave in and changed the law. Okay. So, one of the things that I found here was a timeline about the Montgomery bus boycott. And if you go through this timeline, this was taken out of the newspaper, the Montgomery Advertiser. So, what they're doing is taking out headlines, and from the time that the strike was called to the arrest to the time that it was called. And there was a 15-year-old girl who was charged in March 10th of 55 months before Rosa Parks was charged. She was 15 years old. And Rosa Parks was a part of an organization, church organization, that was trying to come up with ways to change the law. And this just happened to be the day that she got tired and decided that she didn't want to give up her seat. Well, anyway, back to the city. What the city did was they forbade taxi cab drivers from discounting their rates to black passengers. There's a lot of black taxi cab drivers, and I think the cab fare was normally like 40 cents to get around town, and they were charging 10%. Well, the city came out and said, okay, passed a law and said, you can't do that. You got to charge full fare. Blacks tried to start their own bus line, and they weren't given permission to do that. The insurance companies, local insurance companies, pulled the insurance on individuals that they felt were carpooling. Let's see, what else did they do here? Business owners were threatening to lay off black employees that were participating in the boycott. So what happened eventually is that they figured out that they needed blacks were very important to the local economy. They were losing so much money. The city was losing so much money. They finally gave in. So the point being is that you have a thing called Occupy Wall Street, where you had a bunch of middle class people going down to Wall Street and holding up signs and beating drums and crying and whining to the people that they felt were controlling their lives. But then there was a lot of stories about, these kids that were using smartphones and iPods and iPads and all the high tech gadgets to take selfies and to show everybody that they were part of this event and stand in solidarity for their protest. The bottom line is that the way you make and affect change is through financial means. It would be so easy for people to, well, I guess it wouldn't be so easy, because the problem is that you have here is that a lot of these people's pensions, retirements, and income are invested in Wall Street. You start pulling money out of Wall Street, you're running the risk of um, losing your job due to your company going out of business because they depend on money from Wall Street. Okay, and the same with pensions. Nobody wants, everybody wants change, but they don't want to lose any change out of their bank. So where we're going with this, with microbanking 123, is that we're trying to show people that you have control over the situation by taking the money out of risky, failing banks and falling stock value and putting it someplace that's a little bit safer. And I will make the case and show you that the richest people in the world are already doing this, and that the 99% are the suckers who are still have their money vested in Wall Street and the big banks. And when the stock market crashes and all these individuals lose their money, banks are going to come back in and buy them up pennies on the dollar. So again, just if you want to affect change, you got to do it financially. You've got to take your money out of the banks. This Rosa Parks story. If you look at the bus as a bank, and what these blacks did in Montgomery is they took their money out of the big bank, which was the buses. Okay, and after a period of time, when the city realized that they were losing money, they changed. So right now, if you're in the 99%, you're basically just like the blacks in Montgomery, Alabama. You're relegated to the back of the bus. Sure, when there's no one percenters on the bus, they don't need your seat, they don't need your money. You can sit wherever you want. The minute they want your seat, you got to go to the back of the bus.